You understand? They used to discriminate on the jobs. They still do. I want you to understand why they do it. Are they bad? No, they're brought up with patriotism. That's the worst thing you can do. This is where Einstein said patriotism is a disease. That's what he meant by it. So, if you have questions, please.
I do.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm questioning guys.
That's all right.
I've had a number of conversations about if you build a city and people live there, what that will have in terms of a social impact on society. And one kind of, I guess, the most fun topic in that was the likely disappearance of marriage. You know, because when
what effect it will have.
Okay.
I think I know what you want to know.
Okay.
First of all, no one can move into a new city any more than anyone can get on an aircraft carrier without training and signaling. Airplanes don't land, the deck is bombed. They don't let any sailor without being oriented to an aircraft carrier. In our cities of the future, you go to school and learn about the way that city operates. You go to an access center, you don't fill out any forms, you can access a TV set or anything you want. Why? Because that makes you brighter. And the brighter people are, the richer the society. So people don't move into the city without the word, I hate to use that word, orientation. Don't let that scare you. Orientation only means this is how the city works. If you want water, you go here. If you want television, you go there. The city has no sales, there's no objects for sale, there's no cigarettes available, there's no junk food available. So if you come into that city and somebody of the old days gives you $500, he can't spend it anywhere. He can't pay you off. So today, if you want to become an airline pilot, they don't take anybody that's suicidal and give him a job as an airline pilot. They do a survey of his background. Then they put him in a dummy plane, see if he can move the controls. Then they put him in a real plane and say, there's fire in the first engine, what do you do? He says, I bank so the fire will burn that way, not against the plane. They teach him every trick they know. But you just don't get in an airplane and become an airline pilot. They put you on an ocean line. You want to be a captain of a ship? They say, what do you do if fire breaks out? You stay with the ship and make sure that the men lower the lifeboats and women and children first, whatever it is that a captain's trained to do. So when people say to me, how do you know people will behave? Well, if on an aircraft carrier, they have as much as 4,000 to 5,000 people, and they all seem to behave in an appropriate way. If a plane crashes on the deck, they don't leave. They stay there with fire extinguishers. And if it's full of bombs, they get blasted off the deck. They're brought up to defend that land, that aircraft carrier. Well, in the future, everybody you meet will be a person that makes contributions to the world. You either be a doctor, an engineer, a surveyor, food producer, but you won't be a salesman. I got just the car you're looking for. None of that anymore. No more catering to you to get you to buy something. Now, if you got 500 houses on the block, you might have 500 lawnmowers, which is good for the lawnmower business. In a sane society, you have 100 lawnmowers that take care of that whole area. You don't need to buy 500 lawnmowers. Each guy got his own lawnmower. Each person has his own car. What you need is cars in the community center. When you need it, you get in. I don't know if you understand that, but in the Air Force, a guy picks up the phone, he says, this is Captain Hendricks. I'm going to LA in the morning. I'd like the plane on the runway with the prop spinning full of fuel. You only have to say that once. And when he gets there in the morning, that plane is sitting there, and some of the planes are nearly 100,000, 500,000, and $1 million to build. And he gets in that plane, and the guy provides a ladder, takes care of the fuel, makes sure everything is running all right. And when he lands in California, he just gets out. They wheel it into the hangar and update it. Update everything on that plane, service it, so the propeller hums nicely. So everything is kept in key shape. So when you have an automobile in the future, in the early stages, when automobiles were used, you use your car and it'll signal to you and say it's going in for inspection because it has a tendency to race the engine. And it may be a valve job. And the car will go in and plug itself in electrically. And the valve will be removed automatically. So your car will take care of itself. And a lot of people don't understand that. So how can a car take care of itself? Yeah.
Chris was asking about marriage in the future.
Well, people will live together because they can relate. If they can't relate, they leave. They don't pay a lawyer $3,000 to effect a separation. And the wife doesn't say, I want the car, the house, and the kids. You understand? Because she has access to finances, house, everything. She doesn't depend on you.
Right.
So if we succeed in getting a Venus project, say in America, the divorce rate will go way up right away. It's not that people don't like being married. They're trapped. If you got 3 kids and your old man earns 10 times as much as you do, you're going to say, well, you know, I just can't go out with the 3 kids. How am I going to live? So the reason the divorce rate goes up, I'd say that maybe as much as 70% of married people don't agree. They live together sometimes in hatred. And so that isn't good for people.
But that's not only
and then the guy with the white collar that pronounces you man and wife, he has no right to do that. In the Bible it says, a couple joined by God cannot be put asunder. That is, if people really love each other and you tell them not to see each other, they're going to see each other. The guy with the white collar can't guarantee that. People do what they have to do. If you don't like your wife, if she's a once a monther and you're a twice a nighter, she's going to say, I don't want to live with you. And that happens in the real world. There are no good or bad people. There are people with different preferences. Now sometimes a normal guy sometimes first comes in less than 30 seconds. His wife says, it takes me 20 minutes. Can't you hold off? He says, well, I can't control it. Just, why don't you come in 20 minutes? See, they're both right. So the wife says, why don't you see a doctor, a psychiatrist, maybe he can tell you. And the psychiatrist say, why do you hate your wife? She says, I don't hate her. I just get so excited I come right away. The psychiatrist says, well, don't you consider her? Why don't you think of something while you're having sex? Think of something else. What's the worst thing you can experience? He says, changing a tire in the wintertime. So think of that when you're making love to your wife. Your erection goes down a little bit. But every time he changes his tire, he gets an erection. You understand? That's called associative memory. I have to speak this way so you'll understand what I'm talking about. Psychiatry will say, why do you hate your wife? You're depriving her of an orgasm. Or why don't you bring her up to a high and then enter if she takes longer? Well, all that's very nice, but the average guy can't do that easily because he's brought up. He doesn't get laid when he's 13 years old because girls are taught not to have sex and men are taught to have it wherever you can. Now, if you're screwing 5 women at the same time, men call you Don Juan. If a girl screws 2 guys, she's a tramp. Who wrote the book, The Men? They're full of shit. What I'm trying to tell you, women have feelings just as men do. But men make the laws and the rules. And then you look down at a woman that goes out with a lot of guys, but you don't look down at a guy that goes out with a lot of women. You admire him. Say, how do you do that? How do you do so many women? I knew a gangster that used to have lots of women. And I asked him one day, how do you have so many women? Like he had 50 women he was schooling a month. He said, well, there used to be a place called Woolworth's department store, and he used to buy engagement rings for 10 cents a piece. And he'd give it to the girl, and the girl said, oh, I didn't know you loved me that much. So she'd go to bed with a 10-cent ring.